Hello. I hope that you have joined me, some of you lovely ladies out there, maybe dads too. But Greg did tell me that here in South Africa this afternoon there's some important rugby match on. So maybe this is going to mean that some of the moms can come and join me and we can have tea while the dads watch the rugby. On the other hand, maybe the moms are as keen sports fans, rugby fans, as the husbands. I don't know. But whatever, here I am to share with you today. And I really didn't want to miss today, even though there's big sport events happening, because we missed last Saturday's live streaming, sadly. I don't want to miss these live streams, but sometimes it happens. And so I didn't want to miss again this week. And a heads up is that next Saturday, I probably will have to miss next Saturday's live streaming. So we're doing one Saturday on, one off, one on, one off. But then we hope to just settle into it and do it every Saturday whenever we possibly can. I've just realized there's going to be another Saturday at the end of the month that I won't be able to do it either because we won't be here. So I don't think we'll be doing live streaming when we're on the road. And we haven't got that all worked out yet. So this live streaming is something that is just happening as and when we can, but it's really important that we get to it. So just so you know, we're not just fitting it in between our schedule. We're actually placing it in the schedule and trying our very best to get to it because we would like to be there for you. We want this to be a regular event of being able to be here and talk to moms out there that are would like some support. I hope I can support you. And today, you might have seen on Facebook, if you've been following there, I put a little notice to say that today was going to be live streaming. And I mentioned there that today's topic is going to be about not panicking. Well, as I was thinking and pondering on that, Greg, my husband, he said this morning that you know why people panic is because the word tells us to not have any anxiety about anything. And so there's a lot in the world that gives us reason and opportunity to panic. So it's just an easy way for us to be falling into the trap of doing the opposite of what the word tells us to do. And the word tells us not to panic. And so I wanted to talk to you specifically about that today. I'll tell you why, because this past week I've been called upon from a few different directions to please speak to the moms about this situation in South Africa, about there being a law that is changing, which is pertaining to homeschooling, and it's going to affect homeschoolers. Well, before I even go there, I want you to remind you that Oikos has been around for 30 years. And every couple of years, in the beginning it was not even every couple of years, the space was further between than 2 years. Say 3 or 4 years, there would be a big situation happening regarding the law and home education and so on. And it always was something. It was either you have to use this curriculum. Now that's what the government have decided, so you can't use the curriculum you choose to as a parent. You have to use what the department has said you must. Interesting fact, that if you went to the actual law, you would find that didn't say it there. That didn't say in the actual national law that you had to use a particular chosen curriculum. But a Department of Education, a certain provincial Department of Education might have decided that they wanted to bring that in, as in, we want you to use this curriculum for your home education. Maybe that's what happened. Okay, and so then there's a big panic. And I'm just remembering one of the chapters in one of the books I wrote actually says, pray, don't panic. And it's all about that very topic. And that is, let's pray, yet let's use these opportunities to pray into the situation. Let's see them as something to be thankful for. I know that might sound strange, but God actually said to us, give thanks when you're facing trials. Now, some people might have had word in the last week that there's going to be a new law on homeschooling and they're panicking. So I'm bringing a different direction to you for that now. I'm asking you to please not panic about it because there is going to be constant changes in the world. It's just not the same yesterday, today, and forevermore, but we know that He is the same yesterday, today, forever, and forevermore. And He said, don't panic. He said, pray. He said, do not have anxiety about tomorrow. So why don't we just obey that and not have anxiety about tomorrow? It might be easier said than done, I realize, and I'm going to be sharing a little bit more on that in a moment. But I want to just wrap up this matter on with regard to homeschooling and the new law and everything else, because I have to just remind you that Oikos doesn't really spend a lot of time on the political side of what's going on in the government and in the world regarding the different laws, because actually our focus is more to support you on your spiritual journey, to support you in the daily learning lifestyle. And I know that the political, and we need to be law-abiding citizens, and I know that's all part of it. But thankfully, there's something called the Pestalozzi Trust who dedicate their time and energy and efforts on that. So what I say, when there's a concern in the political arena, I say, let's pray, because that's what I'm here for in Oikos, to support and encourage you in. And I got this letter here from a mom that was letting me know that there's a lot of panic in her region about this matter of this law for homeschooling. I'm talking specifically South Africa here. So if you have joined me in the live streaming and you're somewhere else in the world, well, then maybe you can apply the same principle in something that you're feeling panicked about, not necessarily a possible law that might be changing. And I say possible and might because that's actually what it is. I'll read on. It says here, this lady says to me that she's reminding people to remain calm and focused because God is our provider and nothing about this law is certain yet. Exactly. I'm very grateful for her that she's reminding people to remain calm and focused. And then she goes on to say they cannot even put children in school. I won't go into all the detail, but basically I'm not going to speak about areas and regions and everything else because I don't know actual facts. So I will just summarize and say that she's going on to say about the desperate situation in the schools in the region, as in the teachers are not there, there's no books, the schools have been vandalized. And so she's saying to the people, the parents that are home educating, don't concern yourself with this situation because just continue to be the parent that God needs you to be and continue to have assurance and continue steadfastly in that, an assurance that He is your protector. And if you have peace in your heart and you are convicted and know you are doing what you need to be doing for the well-being of your children, well, then He's going to take care of you because He said so. He said He takes care of the little birds, so He's going to take even more care of you. But I'm also going to just let you know what the Pestalozzi Trust. Now, for those of you who are not aware of the Pestalozzi Trust, it's actually, you can just go to their website. I'm going to spell it for you. Pestalozzi. If you go to their website, you will be able to read whatever you need to find out about what is current, because this is what they do, and we can pray for them. So I'm going to read what they put on their post on their Facebook page. This was sent to me. Okay, the Pestalozzi Trust media release on the 30th of July 2018 coincided with the DBE, Department of Basic Education, press release on the approval of the draft of home education policy. The contents of the to-be promulgated policy has still not been made known. It's not been made known yet. So we don't know what the contents are as far as what is actually going to be the new home education policy, okay? Until we know what is in the policy, no comment can be made. This is from their post, the Pestalozzi's post on Facebook. We do recommend, however, that homeschoolers join the Pestalozzi Trust and keep their membership updated so that they have someone to back them up, actually it says, in case their children's right to education is challenged. So you see, what we do is we pray and we thank the Lord. There's a lot to give thanks for. We thank Him that you can actually be at home and home educating your children. We thank Him that the Pestalozzi Trust is an organization that has been set up specifically for that. And we thank Him for Oikos, because here we are at Oikos, being able to live stream and being able to encourage you in His Word, where He tells us that we're not to worry or be anxious about anything. Jamie, can you send me the link to show me to the live streaming? I've just been chatting to you ladies. I have not actually at this point seen who there is for me to greet. And I would like to just go there now, because I've got my tea here. See, I've got this beautiful teacup. It's one of my favorite. And so I've been looking forward to having this cup of tea. Don't need that. Okay. Deborah, are you there? I love it that Deborah's there because Deborah's from Mozambique. Oh, hang on. Now you see what's happening. Jamie, could you help me? Oh, there we go. I just pushed mute. My computer started talking to me. I started talking to myself. Oh, whatever. Okay. Shirley, hello, Shirley. And Princess is there again this time. Oh, dear. Jamie's told me that I've lost the connection again. Sorry, ladies. I was saying hello to you. Thank you, Deborah, for joining us again. Deborah from Mozambique and Shirley from England. Thank you, ladies. I like you being there. It's really, really helpful. As you can imagine, it's so much nicer being able to talk to you than wonder if I'm talking to anybody. Okay, so I really appreciate your support in these live streams and being there. Jamie has indicated that we every now and then he goes, stop, because he sees the connection's lost. So I hope it's not too disjointed, because I'm not sure whereabouts the connection dropped. But I know this might not be terribly important if the connection dropped when I was about to have tea, but I wanted to share my beautiful teacup with you. I love this teacup. So I'm having some tea. Alrighty. I hope you've got a nice hot beverage. Yum. I was talking to you about not panicking, and I wanted to illustrate something very specific about that today, because it might be easy enough. It's easy. Words are easy to speak. It's so easy for me to say, just don't panic, rather pray. But how do you actually start giving thanks when you are full of anxiety? Because that is a reality. Our flesh gets full of anxiety. And I have got a very fresh illustration of this, because just yesterday, I had a very challenging day. In fact, I even asked Jamie to find me an elastic band because I wanted to illustrate that I was feeling like I was being stretched, and I was about to snap. And the thing is, that was my reality. I was dealing with a government matter. And so as much as I say, let's not be anxious, when I say government, I was dealing with documents and difficulties and things that were going to impact quite a few people if I didn't do what needed to be done and press through and persevere and make it better, right? Now, you could maybe relate that in a day that you're having. Maybe your children are having a difficult day. Maybe there's a lot of strife. Maybe there's just unrest in your home for whatever reason. There could be somebody that's sick. There could be just children having a bad day, and they're at each other, and you are feeling worn out, and you're feeling like this, just stretched, and you're about to break, okay? That's what you could be feeling. I know the feeling because I was there yesterday. And I am very, very thankful that I have this in front of me all the time, and that is give thanks when you are facing all kinds of trials. I'm so thankful that I've got the Word and that I've got Him, because if I did not have, then yesterday when I was feeling stretched to breaking, maybe I could have broken, because maybe I could have really made some very bad mistakes because I couldn't persevere, because I was just done. That could have happened. But in the midst of that, I was reminded, give thanks. I'm thinking, wow, what is there to give thanks of in this situation? And very quickly, as the things to give thanks for started coming to me. For example, let me put this into practical, a really graphic. And I've got an idea. I've got an example. Our daughter, Missy, you may or may not know, had a lot of chronic illness in her childhood. And there was one procedure she was about to face. And it was a very, very difficult medical procedure to face. So I'm the mother feeling anxious because my little girl, she was about 9 or so at the time, was going to have to undergo a medical procedure. I didn't like that very much. She was feeling very anxious as well. So now I had reason to not show my anxiety because I'm trying to calm my child down. So I'm saying to her, Missy, don't be worried. Let's pray. Let's trust the Lord. And I'm giving her the counsel and the assurance that a parent would like to give their child to help them to not be anxious. So she says to me, I know you're going to say that, Mom, or I knew you would say that, or something along those lines. I'm not going to give you exactly what she said because this is many years ago. But this little thing that followed on that, I'll never forget it, because she said, Mom, I want to not be anxious, but all my nerves are outside of their houses. This is what she said. So, I mean, I'm sure we can identify as moms that sometimes you feel like you're on your last nerve. All your nerves are on edge. She maybe heard that expression somewhere. I feel like my nerves are on end, or I'm on my last nerve, or whatever. So she says, I feel like all my nerves are out of their houses. So I said to her, okay, well, Missy, the only thing I know to do now is we're just going to have to pray, because God told us we must pray when we're feeling anxious. So let's start giving thanks, because that's how we can start. Now, I'm sure you can imagine that I'm struggling to find what there is to give thanks for in this moment, because I'm filled with anxiety, because my daughter's about to undergo quite a dangerous and complicated and terrifying medical procedure. So God says in that situation, when you're facing all types of trials, and this was a trial for me, he says, give thanks. It's okay. So I give thanks for Missy. I thank the Lord that she's with us and that she's here for us to care for. I thank him for the lovely nurses and how kind they are. And I thank him for the facilities. And I thank him for the specialist doctor who's going to be attending to the situation. And I'll start praying for him. And then I'll start praying for his family. And then I'm thanking the Lord for his family. And Missy's now joining in. And she asks me, has the doctor got children? So I tell her, well, we'll ask him when he comes if he's got children. Turns out that one of his children has got a name very similar to Missy's name, and a very similar age. So you see, all of a sudden our attention was now not so much on the procedure and on the thing that was real. And we did have a lot of cause for anxiety. We had a lot of cause for terror. Actually, we could be very, very afraid. But because we just did what he told us to do, because we were at the end of ourselves, okay, stretched to breaking, it's like, oh, help, what do I do now? I often wonder, why do I wait until I get stretched until I'm suddenly get like a slap, wake up, give thanks. And when we start to do that, everything changes. When we start giving thanks, we start giving thanks for the doctor, and then we start inquiring about his family, and then we hear about his children, and then we hear about his own needs. And so now we can pray for him. And we see what happened. All the focus went off ourselves and off our own anxiety, and we started giving thanks. And we even started experiencing joy, if you can believe it. It sounds strange, but yes, it is a fact. We start experiencing joy because now the anxiety is lifted and it's been replaced with thanksgiving, and with thanksgiving comes joy, because now we're experiencing the blessing of all that we got to be thankful for. And those of you who know Oikos well enough, I'm sure you're aware of my little smiley face. My little smiley face is in every single video that we do. I hope we've never, ever left him out. And he's here as a constant reminder of the joy that is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. So yesterday, when I was having my stretch to breaking point with the documentations of things happening, it was just too much. It was really getting the better of me, and I had to stop and give thanks. I actually started giving thanks to the people on the other side of the phone that I could have been incredibly annoyed with. But instead, I'm finding like as though I'm appreciating them, and I'm helping them to help me in the situation. And so suddenly we became like this team where we were now working together to try and make this really difficult situation that, as I said, was going to affect people in the negative. We were trying to make it right together. We became a team. And I thought, wow, look at that. I started giving thanks for this lady on the other side of the phone. And now we're a team. I'm just amazed and impressed at how wonderful what results from obedience when we're just obedient. And even though there wasn't a single ounce in my flesh that I felt that I could have strength for, or that I could have joy, most definitely not joy. There was no joy. I was stressed. But when I started giving thanks, the joy was there. And real, genuine joy. And God reminds us that his joy isn't stretched one day and a little bit less one day and a little bit more the next day. By his Holy Spirit, we have a constant fountain of joy that is constantly like refreshing living waters, constantly there. We don't go through drought times of joy with the Lord. His Holy Spirit is constantly the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so my little smiley face here is very meaningful to us here at Oikos. The fact that it's yellow as well, because one of our colors in Oikos is yellow, which is depicting sun as an S-U-N and S-O-N and light, and that brings growth. That's why our other color is green for the growth. And that's why I'm glad we've got a plant in our live streaming because of growth and green, you see. And we keep our little Zach here for black and white, for reminding us that we don't compromise. We don't go into the grey zone. We keep it black and white. Lots about colours now. I'm talking about colours. But I hope that if you've received a package from Oikos, that you've got a little smiley face, because we had a lot of discard discs that we wanted to find a use for. So we sprayed them yellow. And Missy made a template for us, and the ladies there who packed the parcels draw on these little smiley faces. And we hope that you can put them on your fridge or use them as a coaster. And I also hope that you will use them to illustrate the lesson to your children, to have joy. Or for yourselves, moms, when you're feeling like your joy tank feels a bit empty or your children's does, well then be reminded that the joy of the Lord is the same. It's constant. Don't have an upside down, even if you're having an upside down day, all right? And your children look like a bit like this, sad, instead of happy, well, then illustrate that. Turn your smiley face that you've got from Oikos upside down and say, look at that, we're all grumpy and sad today. Let's turn our life the other way around. Jamie, how funny would it be if you could flip this whole image upside down? Can you? No, you can't. Because that's how it felt. That's how I felt yesterday. I felt like the day had just turned on its head, completely upside down. And how did it get back the right way around again? I'll tell you how. By being obedient and giving thanks. And then the joy comes. And then his word tells us that when we have joy, we have strength. Now, this is a topic that I will keep reminding everybody of, even if I must repeat myself, because I know it has sustained us through our valleys. I know that this is one of those special treasures we found in the valley, and that is to run to him and start to give thanks and just be obedient regardless of our flesh, regardless of how we feel. But I don't feel very joyful, and I don't feel like giving thanks right now. Well, it doesn't matter what you're feeling like. Just do it, because he said so. He told us to do that, and when we do it, then he blesses us with the result of obedience is blessing. That's as simple as that. So I'm now going to look and see who else has joined us here. I haven't been ignoring you, ladies who have been joining me here. Thank you for joining me. I just wanted to share with you about not panicking and turning your upside down days into the right way up. Oh, thank you so much, Zim. Zim here has said that she's loving what we're doing for homeschooling. Do you know what? That is what Oikos is all about. It's about being here to support you in this journey. And that is why we're doing live stream, because we would like to be here to support this journey that you're on. And if we can help you in your home educating day have this smiley, joyful days, well, then Oikos has done what God wanted us to do. And that is to bring that message to you and to help every day you possibly can have, or to help you have joy in every single day that you are living and doing the learning lifestyle, even when you face trials such as the one I shared earlier about facing a medical procedure that just is totally overwhelming in our flesh. Just Missy's little comment, my nerves are all out of their houses. We can actually do something about, if we try and do something about that in our own strength and in our own humanness, we fail hopelessly. Well, I'm saying I'm meaning general humanity, because that's how we make it. We can fail. But in him, we have all the strength and all the joy. And it comes from obedience, when you just obediently respond to what his word is telling us to do and do that. It is very, very exciting, the result. So I hope that has come through very, very clearly for you, to remind you not to panic, especially the South Africans that are perhaps feeling a bit panicked if they've been hearing through the social media about the fact that there's law being changed for home education. I'm reminding you again that in Oikos, all the years, the law has changed and changed and changed and changed and changed so many times that if we had been trying to keep up with that, we would have been just tossed about. But instead, God told us what we're to do, and that is to bring this message of hope to you, this one of raising your children for kingdom, for him to be able to have adults in society that he can then use for his kingdom purposes, and for you to have unity in your home and to have joy. So I'm not questioning or have any regret as to why we've been through all the valleys we've been through, because I have found treasures in them, and every one of them that I just feel he has equipped us even more to be able to share this message of joy with you and help you through your valleys if you happen to go through some. And I shouldn't say if you, because everybody goes through valleys somewhere or somehow along the journey of life, these valleys. And there's Sylvie. I like it when Sylvie's there too, because whenever I talk about the valleys of suffering, I know she's been through that for a couple of years, some serious medical suffering that family's been through, and she's found treasures there. Not so, Sylvie. I wonder if you're still there. I'm just speaking on behalf of Sylvie and saying that she has found treasures in those valleys of suffering that are of far greater worth than us panicking, spending that time panicking. When we panic, I feel like we're robbing ourselves of the blessing that God wants us to have in that very moment. So yesterday, when I was being stretched, my little stretchy, when I was being stretched to the point of feeling like I was going to snap, and then I remembered that I must give thanks. In that time, in the time that I wasn't giving thanks, I was experiencing this being stretched to the end. And that put a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. So that was the fruit of my lack of obedience, was this negative, this flesh that was failing me, was making me anxious and stressed, instead of, thank you, Lord, for this lady who's doing her best on the other side of the phone to help in this situation. Help me to be reasonable, even though this situation seems utterly unreasonable. Lord, help me. Lord, help me. See, I'm calling out to him. And when I ask him to help me, I remember he says, give thanks. So then I start giving thanks. I ask her what her name is and if she's got children. And so now, as I shared earlier, we become a team and we resolve the problem as best we can. And we thank him for that opportunity, that there was even a problem. Just like when we were in hospital many times with Missy, and we got to meet all those lovely people and the vocation that they were in, the calling they were in to serve and help others, and the nurses and the doctors and everybody in that environment that was there to help us. And I'm sure Sylvie can identify with that as well, with meeting people that you would never have come on your path or got to know had you not been through the valley. And in that time, you could actually be giving to them rather than us going, oh, what's going to happen and what's going to happen to us? You see, the focus is immediately on ourselves. When it's on ourselves, there's not the fruit of the experience of the walking in obedience when we are giving thanks for what he has told us to give thanks for. All right, I'm going to look here and see if there's any questions, because if you have any questions, now's the time to ask me questions on any nature, of anything that you'd like to ask. Please go ahead and ask me any questions. It's Q&A time. And if no questions come through that I spot here, then I'm going to be asking you, ladies, some questions today, because I have some questions for you that I would love to hear your answers on. But first, I'm just going to see if there's anybody. I'm just still trying to see how to follow this. If there's anybody there that has got a question. While I'm waiting to see if anybody's got a question, I'll have some tea. Such a beautiful teacup, this one. I'm not sure. Can you see any questions coming through there, Jamie? So then I'm going to ask. I can't see any questions coming through, so I'm going to ask a question. Oh, there's some people there that I'm spotting that I never saw before. So hello, ladies. Thank you for joining. Lobka's there too. I don't know if you're still there, Lobka, but hello. And B? Hello, B. Okay. The question I have for you ladies, those that are there now, and if you're watching, anybody's watching this after the fact, I would like to ask you a question, and that being, it's been asked of us over the years to please tell the Oikos story, as in how did it happen and how did it start, and basically the history or the beginnings, or there's just various different questions that come to me in that regard, as far as just the whole founding and so on of Oikos. So my question to the ladies out there today is, what would you like to know about the Oikos story? Because to be honest, what I was doing is I was pondering on this for a while now, as far as doing like a little short series, because we did behind the scenes, which is on the Oikos website, just to show people what happens behind the scenes at Oikos, as in the print house and how we print the books and packaging and all of that, what goes on a daily basis at Oikos. We've got that series called Behind the Scenes. So that was more the here and now. But what I've been hearing from people for many years, actually, is when are you going to tell us the Oikos story? And I've been, as I say, I've been trying to figure out where to start on that, because quite frankly, my Oikos, the story from my perspective goes all the way back to ancient, my ancestors, because of the fact that we of Norwegian descent, and we came here on a ship. So what I was just saying is, if you want to ask me, I'd like you to please tell me, actually, I'm asking you to tell me what part of the Oikos story you would perhaps like to know. Maybe it's not necessary or required. It's just something we thought that we could do and put it on the website as a little series of the Oikos history and where it all began, because our children are adults now. And we originated, I was saying before we lost connection, and that is my heritage is having come to South Africa on a ship from Norway. That's been my ancestors. A pastor and his flock from a church in Oslo got on a ship by the name of Lapland, and they came to South Africa. And they settled on the south coast, east coast of South Africa, by Port Shepstone. And then the story goes on from there. And that's like the beginning. We can go back even further to the Vikings. That's where the Norwegians descend from. So that's why I'm asking you ladies in the live streaming today, and anybody who watches this after the fact, if you would like to send me the answer to this. Send me your answer as to what you would like covered in that, and what part of the Oikos story would you like to know. And I'll be happy to include that in our little series that we're thinking of doing. And now I have a question that has come in, and I'm going to read it. It says, what advice would you give to someone who's coming into the Oikos family, into the Oikos learning lifestyle, and they've got older children, and there isn't enough time left to go through all the character traits in Konos, and that would be stressful for a parent? Where should they start, and how would they approach the few remaining years before exiting from high school? You know how I'd answer that question is in the following way, to say that if you've got you only bringing your children home, say when they're 14 or older, and you're thinking, 14 to 18, I've only got 4 years, and then it's license time and it's exiting home education perhaps and into the adult world. In our instance, our children actually exited the home itself only around from mid-20s onwards, 25 or so, is when our daughter got married. Was she 25? I think so. And the thing is that it's not this magical age of 18 and now they're going to leave home. And even if your children think that, I think it would be good to redirect that thinking a little bit and to let them know that their home is their home for as long as their home needs to be their home until they're ready to make their own homes. And there's a lot of time after 18, between 18 and 21, and then 21 on, where you have opportunity to be alongside your children in their adult life and being there to support them in their growing in their adult life. But back to the question of, what about if I take my child out of school when they are 14 or 15 or 13 or somewhere around there, out of the school system, and bring them home and start doing the Oikos learning lifestyle? How does that parent know which character trait to do in Konos, if there's time for Konos, or if we just need to put in the academics? Well, the answer is yes, there's time for Konos, and also the academics is numeracy and literacy, remember, so it's language and maths. Those are the two foundational educational academic learning and that just happens consistently. It's got to happen layer upon layer. So a parent would do the assessments on the website. They would establish whereabouts their child is slotted into the program as far as the skill and mastery and understanding level is. And then from that point on, they would just systematically work up and through the program until whatever age. They could be finished those books by the time they're 17 or 19 or 20. It doesn't have an end age on it. What the Oikos resources have is when they have completed that and they're ready to move on to the next thing. That's what it's about. It's not when they're 18 they have to be finished at this point. Because one child is going to be finished at that point when they're 16 and another one when they're 20 perhaps. So it's about each individual student being able to systematically work through the program with the resources that are offered from Oikos in the language and the maths. And that is easy to put in place because you do the assessment, you slot them in, and then you just move on from there consistently. And that's a nice, what is the word I'm looking for? Sort of the formal part of your day. The structured part of the day is the formal language and maths. Okay, and then you've got Konos and you've got the other resources, such as your Bible study. So for me, no matter what age the child is, I would say you start with Bible study because now you've got this opportunity where you're at home together. You don't have to get up and rush through breakfast. Your lifestyle has changed when you bring your children home. You're not having to get up and rush through breakfast, quickly get lunch packed, school uniforms on, to the gate, into the car, to the gate, I hope there's not traffic and all the rest of it. Instead, now your children at home, so now you can take it easy. So there should be more peace and less stress and strife and everything, one hopes. And you can start in Bible study. Because now you're spending time in the Word right from the beginning of the day. You've got the Bible study resource that you can use for the different level age children, as you would see on the website. Picture Smart is appropriate for children for people up to 100 years of age or more. For real, because, watch the video about the Picture Smart resource. It's just fantastic. We just got so many incredible testimonies about that. Anyway, so you start with your Bible study and then get the formal lessons done, possibly. I'm not suggesting in which order you place these things in your day. That would be what suits your particular family and children. And then you can decide on which character trait in Konos is the one that is most needed in your young adult. Because let's say this one child that you brought out of school is 14 or 15, and you know as a parent that one of the areas of huge lack in this child is whatever specific characteristic it is. It could be patience, it could be perseverance, it could be orderliness. And now you know you've got a daughter or a son that orderliness isn't quite yet established in that individual. Maybe there's not even orderliness well established in yourself as the parent. And so you go, you know what, I'm not being the example that I believe God needs me to be in the area of orderliness, so let's go there. Let's start there. Because while you are training your children in orderliness, you're training yourself. So now you will be doing orderliness with your child or your children or as a family for a week, a month, a year, whatever it takes to then start seeing the fruit of orderliness in yourselves. So you don't have to go and do, say, the character trait of attentiveness because your children understand what it means to pay attention. You've said to them, pay attention, they've grasped that, they understand, they know. Paying attention means the following. It means listening to what has been instructed to you. Maybe they had to pay attention a lot from being in school. Maybe that's one of the characteristics that's really strong in them. So now you don't need to do that from Konos because Konos is about training the character. And you've got all these wonderful activities to help you practically put that into training, like as an orderliness. There's going to be a whole lot of activities there. The one actually being all about the planets, moons, and stars, astronomy, and everything else. And that's been very interesting lately with Mars being closer to Earth at the moment than what it's been in many years, and with us having the lunar eclipse last Friday, was it? There's been... Okay, 27th of July, yeah. And so there's been a lot of interest around that in the media and everything else. And so we can focus on it from an astronomy point of view, or we could also bring into that orderliness and how God has things in exact order. And if the sun was a little bit closer to the earth than where he's put it, we would all fry. And all of these activities are in Kronos. And so the topic isn't what matters. I'm talking about astronomy now because that's what's been happening a lot. A lot of focus on that in the last couple of weeks. But the point is more about training your children in having the characteristic of orderliness. And now I'm going to have a little proud parent moment because I have got incredibly orderly children, let me tell you. I know they're adults, but they're still my children. They are so orderly. It is such a blessing. I mean, I feel like the Proverbs 31 lady where, you rise up and your children call you blessed. Well, I'm blessed because if I go into my daughter's home, I only ever see anything but order. It is such a blessing. It's just beautiful. I'm sure you understand that if you go to someone's home or even your own home, if your own home is in absolute chaos, it doesn't feel comfortable because you know that you don't have the order in your day the way God would like you to, because God is a God of order. And when you start putting things in order, you see the blessing of it. You get the blessing of it. You don't spend 2 hours looking for the pair of scissors. You know exactly where to go for them. And you've taught your children that because you did orderliness when you're doing Kronos. And so now you've all got the strong characteristic of being orderly people. And now God uses that. That's the whole thing. In their adult life, I know that if God sees that the children that we've raised, if he sees this characteristic of orderliness in them, he can use that for his kingdom purpose. If he sees they're not orderly and they're just chaotic, well, then he has to wait for that characteristic, that lack of reflection of himself. So they need to be transformed into his image. So it does not matter what age the child is when they come out of school as to which Kronos character to use and how you're going to get in. What about all these others and all am I going to miss? No. Because if you never get to attentiveness in volume 1 of Kronos, that's not what is relevant. What is relevant is that you have this opportunity, even though it's only the last 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years of their adult life left, because the rest of the time they're in school. All the time that they were in school, you were training them as a parent anyway. But now you've just got a more focused character trait that the whole family is going to work on together, whichever character trait that is. And when you've seen the fruit of it, you say, good, now we are all more orderly people than we were before. Let's look at what the next character trait that we need to focus on, maybe, whatever it is. It might be, maybe you've noticed while doing orderliness that we're good in orderliness now. Everything is a little bit more ordered in our home. But there's this lack. You've spotted something else. One child has been particularly irritable, and it's causing a little bit of a ripple effect in the family. So now you want to attend to that. And so now you will look at what character trait needs to be done to help change this negative characteristic that is having a negative effect throughout the family. And then you can focus on that. And that would be the next Kronos unit that you do. Okay, so that was the question that came in, and it was a very long answer, I know. But you also know that I could talk a lot about this because we did Kronos for many, many, many years, and we continue to. Does it ever stop? I'm not too old to do Kronos. I had to learn yesterday to give thanks much quicker, be much faster on my response to what God is instructing me than take time to be obedient. He wants me to be obedient much quicker, and then he can bless me much quicker. See? So obedience might be for little children to learn to obey mommy, but that's from the Kronos unit, a Kronos manual. But even now, I'm having to learn to continue in this learning to be obedient quicker. I'm too slow to obey, it would seem. And, okay, Sylvie's asking a good question here. She's asking, how do you know when it's time to move on to Kronos How? It's a very good question, Sylvie. Actually, you know what? Missy wanted to do Kronos How when she was 13. And I just took one look at the Kronos How manual, and I thought, no, she's not ready for this. It's quite advanced. It's a much higher level of learning. It's more independent. So even though your 13-year-old might think that they're ready, you as a mom might know otherwise. As in, if you looked and read through that whole first unit of the Konos How and you read through the parent book, you would see, you know what, I know that my daughter, it's normally the daughters that want to start earlier. That's something I've discovered just from all the testimonies. But you might find that your daughter wants to, but you might as a parent know that she's not ready. Because if you read the first section in the parent manual of the Konos How and the first module in Konos How, you will see there's a lot required of the student on an independent level. And if that's what that individual needs, it says absolutely a good fit at that time, well, then you will know as the parent. And the other thing that I've noticed happened, if anything, parents are inclined to put their children onto Konos How too soon. So I would caution you to rather leave it later, better late than early. Leave it a little bit later because it's safer to leave it a little bit later. But if you're going to have a miserable child and they're going, but Mom, I want to, what you could do, this is what's happened twice in our family. One instance was with the chemistry book and the other instance was with Konos How. So I actually did eventually give Missy Konos How because she was asking for it. And within 2 weeks, I could tell that it was going to be a stress for her because she was going to become super studious, and terribly organized. And everything was going to be about that. And I knew that that wasn't what was right at that time. So I had to say to her, right, I've given it to you, you've looked at it, you've seen what's involved, and now I'm going to have to put it aside, and we're going to do this between this time and this time until I feel you are ready for it. But of course, that wasn't very well received because she felt she was ready for it. But I could very quickly see the negative that would come if I left her doing Konos How. I'm now chuckling because I'm thinking, I don't give parents the direct answer like, when do we start Konos How? You start when they're 13. No, I don't, as you've gathered. I encourage you to find out what is right for your individual child. And the way to find that out is to you yourself investigate. It's just like if I go back to this law thing, there was a huge panic last week about the law changing, but it hasn't actually changed yet. It hasn't actually been promulgated. Gets tripped up on that word. Promulgated. Thanks, Jamie. Promulgated. It hasn't even been promulgated. So what I'm suggesting is let's actually get the facts. All right. And just because social media says one thing doesn't make it fact. We know this is fact. Word of God. Same yesterday, today, and forevermore. Fact, fact, fact. We know he said, do not worry. Do not be anxious. I am your provider and your protector. He said that. And when we trust and obey, we get the fruit and the results of that. So, even if now, Sylvie, I'm just thinking about a practical thing here, Sylvie. You might be asking about when to go into how, and now there's the budget factor. And you go, well, you know what, we can't afford it right now. There's an answer. You don't get it. You do something until you know you're working towards that. Your daughter knows you're working towards that. You know that in time that is going to be the next step. And maybe you never get how. That would be sad. I tell you, people that use how and the students that have, Oikos students that have been through how, they've only got good things to say. That's been my experience so far. It is an incredible resource for young adults. It teaches so much more than history of the world. That's what HOW stands for. But Sylvie, if you're in a position where you can actually get the Konos How manual and the parent manual, you could actually get it before the child needs it. Because then you get it, you get familiar with it, you know what it's all about, and then you let your daughter have it when the time is right, because you've got it ready. The other thing that's come to me about this how is the fact that we did a workshop on it. The sound was terrible, so apologies for that. It was best we could do at the time. But there is a workshop on the Oikos website. Are you finding the link, Jamie? Jamie's finding the link. He'll put it there for you. A workshop on Konos How. Watch that, and maybe even watch that with your daughter, and you'll see that Missy's not young there. I think she must be about 16 or so. She shared with me at that workshop, and we talk about some realities of how and how different an experience it was for her to what it was for our son James. Okay, I'm going to see if there's any more questions here. Yes, Shirley, the answer is yes. You're asking here about can you continue, do you continue even after your child has turned 18? Well, we have a 24-year-old son, and he's at home and he's learning. He hasn't stopped learning. He's learning every week because he's in the film industry, and you just never stop learning in the film industry. I mean, I'm learning how to do live streaming. So the answer to the actual education at home, quite honestly, a lot of people are going past 18 and doing their, college, tertiary learning education at home. They're choosing to do that rather than them going into universities and colleges and so on. I'm just thinking now of more than, I was thinking of one person for a minute, and then all of a sudden my mind is flooding with quite a few people that went to university for the first quarter, or I don't know what you call it, semester, whatever, and decided to continue either with that same course of study that they were doing, but through correspondence at home or online or whatever it might be, because the university was having strikes. Is it strikes? There was unrest going on at the university. I don't think strikes is the right word, but anyway, there was unrest at the university. And so these students were not actually getting learning. They were going to university. Can't grab the word that I'm looking for. You're giving protests. Thank you, Jamie. There were protests. So they'd get to university and there would be these protests and marching and everything else. Well, they didn't get to any lecture. So, okay, well, that was a waste of time, petrol, money, everything else, back home again, next day and so on. 2 weeks later, this is still happening. And so they decide, we're going to carry on at home. So after all that, all the drama of trying to get into university and everything else, they ended up now trying to apply for continuing that particular course of study, whatever it was, through correspondence, or there's different ways to do that from home. I'm not getting all the different. I want to mention them, but I'm going to prefer not to mention the different ways that you can study at home. Let me go back to our own example, and that is that Jamie has registered on a few online film schools, and they're different ones. One was based in America. Was there one based somewhere else, like Australia or something? No. But basically what I'm saying is he can actually get a lecturer. Should I tell him about that? Jamie made a little note for me there behind the camera, and it's called lynda.com. Is it still functioning strong? Lynda, LYNDA.com. Put the link there for us, please, Jamie. Lynda.com is a place where you can study, oh my goodness, course after course after course of a variety of different topics of study and learning. And you might not get a degree, you might not get a qualification with a degree with a particular name on it, but you would get a lot of certificates and a lot of courses and a lot of experience and a lot of training. So it's just a different approach. There's different ways to do that, but we are here to encourage you to continue to protect your children, because if you think of a young 18-year-old young lady, I just think that it's good for parents to continue in what God has called them to do, to continue to protect them forever. I mean, I'm just thinking of a time now last year that I was going to a mom's tea retreat thing, and I had a problem with my car, and my father, this was halfway there, I stopped in at my parents' home because there was a problem with the car. My father insisted on driving me to this retreat, and when I was ready to come home, he's going to come and fetch me from the retreat. Now, I'm not a child. I'm not, 18 or 19 or 20, but my father was there. Greg wasn't available at the time, my husband, to take those steps and protecting and looking after his wife. And so then my father stepped in. So I'm just saying it doesn't stop our looking after and protecting and taking care of those that God has entrusted to us to care for. Okay, thank you for putting Thank you for putting the lynda.com there, ladies. Jamie put lynda.com there, so if you want to go and take a look at that, I'm thinking you'll be impressed. There's tremendous amount of options and opportunities for learning there. Okay. If so, how would you address the child to get them on board with what needs to be done? Wow, I think, you know what, there are so many challenges with the demands of society on young people now. It's making it very difficult for a parent, I think. I'm guessing, I'm just hearing what parents are saying. But I don't think it should influence us, because I think we need to do as what God says. So no matter what's going on in society or in the world, and now the world is, there's a lot of pressure on you have to have an iPhone, because if you, a cell phone, because if you don't have, well, then it's dangerous not to. And that could be the message, right? And then you've got on the other hand, where parents are saying, no, I'm not going to give my 4 children cell phones. First of all, we don't have the funds to do that. Secondly, then we've got to have the management of all of that and so on and so forth. And there's a lot that's going on those cell phones that parents are not too happy about, and the children become, I don't know, there's all sorts of acronym, all sorts of new terminology now attached to the conditions that are arising from cell phone usage. I'm not just talking medical now, I'm talking about physically, mentally, emotionally, all of that. Things that are happening as a result of children having cell phones from too young. So now, how do you as a parent help your young adult understand that you're not going to give them a cell phone? You as parents have decided they're not getting a cell phone. Now, they can be very unhappy about that and rebellious and angry and have a lot of negative emotion because all their friends have got a cell phone. So why can't they? You know, I mean, their parents are just being unreasonable now. That's what the child could be thinking. So what does the parent do? The parent has got themselves somewhat more of a challenge, because society is dictating one thing and their hearts and their conviction is another thing. Okay, I think we are on our hour. We don't really like to go over the hour, but I was just coming back. Let me just finish on that because we lost connection for a moment there. Just let me come back to how do you get your children on board when they are it's been impressed upon them from society, the very opposite of what the parents are feeling convicted about. My simple answer to that is, if the parents are being convicted about what the Word of God says, and that's what the parents are giving their child because that's what God has said, it's going to be okay. If you're dealing with a lot of negative from that, but you can stand as the parent in a negative response from your young adult, that is, if you can stand on the Word and stand in your conviction and go to God and give Him thanks when you're facing this trial of a young adult that is not on board and just opposing everything, then you have to ask Him for the guidance on how to remain convicted and how to remain steadfast in what He's called you to do, because that there will be an example to your child. I mean, what young adult doesn't go through times of feeling as though their parents are not quite understanding them, or that they would like their parents to view it differently, to view it their way rather than the way the parents are viewing it? It happens like that, but it's how the parents deal with it. And what I would like to encourage parents to do is to deal with it with God's help and from His Word, because that is what you're then giving them. So if it becomes a practical thing, so I was using the cell phone one because it's an easy one, not to have a cell phone or to have a cell phone. And the parents are absolutely sure about what their decision is in it, and they're sure that it's the best for their child. They're not going to give their child a stone. They're going to feed their child a fish, like the Word says. And so they can explain to their child, these are our reasons, and this is how it is. And we've been put in authority of you, and that is how it is. Now, you might kick and scream, and you might not like it, and you might hate us for it, and all those. But now I'm going to have to help you to walk according to how God has asked you to respond, because to hate is evil. To love is Him. So now you can actually start helping them with their reaction. So if your 18-year-old who's an adult and can make up their own mind and so on and so forth, I chuckle every now and then, like in the middle of something, because I just immediately have a memory of the time that one of my brothers said to my mother, because he was 19, and he said to my mother, he was giving my mother some challenge about something about, well, he's 19 now. He's like, fluffing his feathers out. And she said, yes, you're quite right, you're 19 years old. And so that would mean that at the moment while you're living in this home, you've got the following privileges. If you would like to not have those privileges anymore because you're 19 and you can go live on your own in your own flat or apartment, then you're welcome to do that. Off you go. I actually remember this moment happening in our kitchen. I was younger. I was the youngest in the family. And so I had the experience of watching this happen before I was that age. So I knew that there was no chance that I could actually think that I could challenge my parents on certain things because they were steadfast. And that's how it was. And as long as you want to have the privileges of this home, young man, you're very welcome to have the privileges. But if you are wanting to, be 19 and say that, tell us how it's going to be, well, then let me share a few life responsibilities and facts with you. And then she would tell my brother, not she, just my mom and dad actually, would tell him what it means to be responsible as a 19-year-old, what kind of responsibilities he will have to have if he isn't in the protection and the privileges of this family and this home, which means that these are the responsibilities he has here in this situation. And if he would like all these other privileges and he doesn't like the way it is, then he can go on his own and do it his way. But she was just guiding him and letting him know that these are the responsibilities he will have to be facing out there. So it's up to you. And she made it very clear. It is what it is. And so that brother of mine could continue to be cross with his parents and feel like they've been unreasonable and be grumpy about it, but it wasn't going to affect their decision. They weren't going to buckle under his grumpiness. They remained steadfast. And furthermore, they didn't just leave him to be grumpy. They actually helped him to see that there's no point in being upset about this or angry about this. Why don't you go and try and see how it is out there, and maybe you can figure it out for yourself. And they were kind. My parents were kind parents and very, very firm. And to me, it was just, the firmness wasn't an unkindness. I might have felt it like that sometimes. But it actually, the result of it was just doing what the Word of God says. And the result of it was that they continue to be those steadfast parents today. It hasn't changed. And so, parents, if you've got young children or adults in your household that are beyond the age of 18, well, I'm going to encourage you to continue steadfastly in what God has told you in the way to raise them. And if you need help in that yourself, as in you're feeling a bit shaky as a parent and you don't feel you have that steadfastness yourself, well, then write to me. I will do what I can to help you. I will check with my mother because she will also give some guidance in that. I should ask her to come and do live streaming. I wonder if she will. I'm going to try. Let me ask you, would you like my mother to come and sit here and do live streaming with us? Granny Oikos. Now I'm past this now. I'm past the hour, so I think I must wrap up. And I have to say goodbye to you ladies. Don't really want to. But I hope that you will remember to keep joy front and center in your day. And if you have an upside down day, flip it around. Give thanks. Don't panic. Pray. And I will see you at the next live stream, which won't be next Saturday, but the one after that, I hope. I'm going to quickly confirm that. Look on this calendar. It won't be next week, but it will be oh, no. I don't know if it'll be the following either. Oh, well. I will see you at the next live streaming. I'll let you know. We'll put a notice on Facebook and wherever else we can to let you know that we will be live streaming on the next date. We might do it during the week because it looks like these next few Saturdays are going to be difficult. So thank you for being there. Loved having your company with me in the live streaming today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye. Have a wonderful week.